Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hi everybody, how you doing tonight? I hope you had a merry, wonderful Christmas, Yule, solstice, all of that. I hope your stockings were full, but not as full as your heart should be today. So thank you very much. And if you didn't, well, you're here now, and they will be by the end of this, because here's the thing. I love y'all, and we're here tonight, and it's so cool to come in the chat and pass along all that energy. When somebody needs to be lifted up, we lift them up. When we make each other laugh, we lift each other's vibrations high. So, all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I love to check out, as everybody comes in here, I'm going to tell this little intro, and I'm going to bring in a buddy of mine that you guys are just going to love so much. I'm so excited about this. So excited. So I kept tonight open because, it's the night after Christmas and build up all the way to Christmas. You've got all the Christmas shows and Christmas spirit and, different ghost sightings at Christmas, the whole shebang building up. What do you do right after Christmas? It's not quite New Year's, and, you're kind of coming down. Hello to all you beautiful people in the chat. I see you all. How you all doing tonight? So I kept it open. I said, well, I don't know what to do. Maybe do something cutesy like Santa Claus sightings and, do some, ghosts caught on tape and things like that. And, something tchotchke. And I said, no, I'm going to keep it open and we'll see what happens. I'm going to put it out into the universe and I'm going to see what the spirits do with it. And I know that sounds funny, but that's what I did. Crossed my heart. Okay. Scout's honor. And so anyway, I left it open. A couple of days ago, I got an idea. And I looked at my chat, and a friend of mine had posted, and I hadn't talked to him in a while, and I said, you know what? He has the exact story that I wanted to bring to you guys tonight. You want to talk about a lifetime of his journey and enjoying the journey and being a gatekeeper of his own soul first and then others, and just amazing. It's just an amazing story. So it's almost like you can label what you want, whether you want to call a shaman's journey or a journey of a tradition, a culture keeper, or a medicine man or woman of any tribe, of any culture, or an apostle, or someone, the woman at the well who taught us all to give all, even though it be just 2 cents, was more than a whole kingdom from a millionaire. So many people and so many things teach us along our journey. And when this story, like an ascended master, or anything like that, Donnie, everybody's got their path. Some people, think about, their thing is to study Sun Tzu, or to study Confucius, or study the Bible, or to study just the words of Jesus, or to study just the words of Muhammad, or so many other teachings, whether it's studying nature. The whole thing is, it's your journey, and it's your steps, it's your feet, it's your choices. The cool part about this show is once that gate's open and I've invited a guest to walk us, they're walking us through their journey. They're walking us down that path, and they're showing us, and they're pointing things out, and they're teaching us along the way. And we're all walking together almost like we're on a guided tour, right? And, we're stopping as a group and we're looking at this and going, what do you think? Man, that's like, that happened to me. And, I saw that. And that's the kind of thing where instead of walking this journey alone, we're walking together. And it's so cool to invite different people in here to show us their vantage point and their different idea of how things happen in their life. And the most important thing I could ever have on this show, or to use my time and my what all this fandangle equipment is to get a word out, is that light wins over darkness. I don't care if it comes in as an entity that was never human, or if it's just pissed off people at our workplace, or whatever it may be. Evil comes in many forms, and we fight against not flesh and blood. In a lot of ways we fight against principalities and these spirits that want to take something from us, and we have to battle that. And when you get through to the other side, to the light, it's the most magnificent thing. So there we go. Who could I bring on to tell this? I have him right here. Ladies and gentlemen of my chat, my gatekeepers, my friend Stephen Butler. Come on in here and join us tonight, sweetheart.
Hello.
Hi, baby.
Hey.
Welcome in. So that's the story, Stephen. I reached out to you, just a couple days ago, right? And said, hey, you want to come back on?
Yeah, we stay connected through the Book of Faces there, so,
The Book of Many Faces.
That's what I'm calling it.
That's what I'm calling it from now on. Well, while you're here, I'm going to say really quick hi to these lovely, beautiful people in this chat. Welcome in, Steve and everybody. And we may have a special guest popping in. If you guys see Mr. Stockton, he's got another show, and he was going to try to pop in here. So please forgive me if we just pop in and, or like I said, he may not be able to make it, but it'd be great, because the thing is, Stephen and I have been on with Steve before, and you guys, we were just talking about journey, Stephen, and our different things along the way, and having almost parallel experiences, you and Steve, in some cases.
Yeah, we're kindred spirits for sure.
And it's so cool, because when we were first together, Stephen was going through his story, and he's going to take the reins on that, but I also wanted to set the stage here a little bit. Hello, Blue Crossroads and Laura and Peter. Hi, darling. How you doing, sweetheart? So glad you're in tonight. So glad everybody's here. Jilly, how are you doing? Laura, my wonderful mod. We have Donnie in here. And it was Donnie wanted to bring in aliens. He's been requesting aliens. I said, well, I got somebody for you that's got a story that you need to hear. And here he is, Donnie. So Merry Christmas, love. And Gray, how you doing? How you doing, Fast? Oh, gosh, everybody's in here. If I missed you, I'm so sorry. Mods, take care of welcoming everybody in tonight, because I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit back, and I'm going to listen, because Stephen has this wonderful thing now. Real quick to catch up with he lives where I was stationed, right outside of Redstone Arsenal in Alabama. And there's a thing that's in the South, I believe, that there's a rooted faith and community and kinship, I believe, in the South, that's not really felt in a lot of places that I've been in the U.S. What do you think about that, Stephen?
Yeah, you can't believe everything that you see on the TV and the movies about Alabama. I mean, we most of us have all of our teeth and all that good stuff.
We're not barefoot and pregnant sitting on the front porch watching NASCAR. But I'll tell you something. The root of the faith is so strong, and I loved it. I love that, because it wasn't so much you were judged on what you believed, but that you believed in something, that you had your faith rooted, and and most things are welcome. I've been in powwows that were Native Christian and pagan mixed together. It was a love core, isn't it, Stephen?
Well, we got a little bit of everything here.
It's cool.
And the main thing too, I've noticed being an Alabamian all my life, people are friendly here. We all get along, and we're in this together, and we've come a long way.
Well, that's it. And the thing, too, about the reason I brought that up is because I want to put something forth in the chat, because all, you know how I feel. Everything like that is absolutely welcome. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about what I always say, that you got to have the right tool for the job. And in Stephen's case, we both believe, and if Steve was here, he'd tell you the same thing, that he was fighting a little bit more of those principalities and, that spiritual warfare, as well as monsters right here, I believe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tell you guys this. All of this is going to unfold the way Stephen tells this. He tells it as it happened. And like I said, it's almost like a guided tour down that journey. And some of it's going to be, some dark turns and hard lefts. But when we get back to the end of it, you're going to see that this whole story starts with light and ends with light. And that's what I want you guys to remember too. No matter how dark it gets, in different things that you might be going through to strengthen your soul and go through your journey, know that the light is going to win. You just have to put your feet in that faith and stand strong. I always say, have the roots of an oak and be like a willow and bend with the wind a little bit, and you get real strong that way. So sit back, get your beverage that you're going to enjoy tonight, and just listen. And at the end, we can have some questions or whatever, because this is going to peel back and unfold and bloom like a beautiful flower. But I'm going to sit back and just listen. Stephen, you want to begin with the beautiful lights that you saw?
Yeah, I couldn't remember if I shared this the last time, but the very first strange experience that I had, I was just a little kid, maybe about 5 or 6, and I used to play by an old watercress oak tree. And I had my G.I. Joes at the bottom of the tree, and I felt a big whoosh of wind, and I mean, it was a very strong wind, and the closest thing I can equate it to would be like a really high-powered drone, like people have today, the great big ones that when they're close to you, you can feel the wind kind of jet out. Well, I felt the gust of wind on the back of my neck, and I looked up, and it's going to sound crazy, but it looked like a giant Japanese beetle that was red chrome. It was shiny red chrome, kind of like a June bug, but it was red and probably about the size of a cantaloupe. And I've always thought about it. I think about it from time to time, about every other day, just about, and it's puzzling. When I saw it, it flew away, and that was the end of that.
It's like those lights you saw, and I remember when we were talking with Steve, he had mentioned, and if he pops in here, I'm sure he'll say it. He was seeing little lights that almost look like tiny little flash bulbs, like the size of the head of a pin, that would just flash. It would be all different colors. And I know that I've seen things like that. Most of the time mine are either gold or purple. It depends on what I'm going through. And you had an experience with lights outside, I believe, as well as inside.
I when my wife and I were buying our first house, we were kind of in between places to live and saving up for a down payment. So we moved down to her grandmother's house, and she's fantastic, by the way. She's still doing fine.
Wonderful.
Yeah, she's 88.
Woo!
And just fantastic.
Lots of love her way. Lots of love her way.
Man, I could bring her on the show, and she could really tell you some things.
She's more than welcome.
Oh man, she's awesome. You would love her. But she's just a great little Southern mama, and good Christian woman. So I noticed at her house, I couldn't smoke inside, so I would go out in the front to smoke. And she's got trees, like really thick trees, all around her house, even though she lives in a neighborhood. It's just, it's got the long road with the trees that wind, and I kept seeing these lights, and they kind of looked like they were gold, amberish colored, and they were brighter than any kind of light that you could buy even today. They're just super bright, beautiful little lights. And they were they varied in size. They weren't all the exact same size, but they were all about maybe the size of an old flash bulb and those old instant cameras, you know.
Yep, I sure do.
So probably about the size of a plum or a little bigger. And there would be several of them, and they would just be dancing around through the trees. You know, if it was like a fallen star fragment or something like
Right.
that, it would fall in a downward trajectory, you know.
Right, right. Almost like little fireflies or little fairy lights or something along those lines because they were kind of dancing almost like fireflies, but they were brighter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they moved. You could tell that it was something like
Right.
something alive, you know,
Right, right.
because it moved with intention and it just kind of was very random, you know. It didn't drift. It zigged and zagged and up and down, and so I would see them all the time at her house, and I would tell my wife about it, and she never saw them. But she had some cousins that would come over, and they were all into like the woo-woo stuff. So we used to ride around to like haunted graveyards and things like that to get a good spook. So they came over one time, and I told them about the lights, and they said, "No way, man, no way." And I said, "I bet you if we went outside right now, we could go see them." And they said, "All right then." So we walked outside and lit up a cigarette, and sure enough, here they came. So I had two witnesses that time that saw those. And during the same time, the last light that I saw there was a great big one. It was probably about the size of a beach ball.
That's huge.
It was huge, and I was used to seeing the little bitty ones, so seeing a great big one like that was startling. And the way that these lights work is, just imagine if they were following a trajectory, but they would blip in and out of your vision.
Okay.
Like they would be there for a second, and then they would kind of sputter back into your vision.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Like cloaked or something. And so me and a couple of my buddies had come over, and we were outside smoking. And I just happened to be looking at the right place at the right time to see the great big light. And it popped up over Grandma's house, and it kind of danced up and down like a snake or a caterpillar would, you know, all the way to the other end of the house, and then it just blipped out. Yeah, it's kind of in and out. That whole situation lasted probably about 2 seconds. But when it flashed in, it was so bright that my buddies was like, "What was that?" Like a great big flash.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, "Guys, I wish you would have been looking in this direction because I just saw something freaking amazing." You know?
That's the way it is, man.
All right, so fast forward to, that was about 20 years ago. So fast forward to maybe about June of this year.
Okay.
We were at Joe Wheeler State Park in Guntersville. And the way that it is it's just kind of right there on the river. And it's like a step back to the 60s, you know. It's like an old swanky resort, you know.
Yeah.
So things are kind of outdated, but, you know, it's still a cool place to go and take the kids for a weekend getaway, you know. So we were in the pool that night, me and my wife and my kiddos. And we were just kind of chilling over by the side of the pool in the water. And I was looking up, At you know, being a painter, I always look at the night sky and the scenery, and um, everything is artsy to me.
Right, right.
So I was just looking out into the trees, how pretty they looked against the moonlight there, and I'll be darned if I didn't see another one of those lights. And I mean, it was the exact same thing.
That's a trip because I remember when you and Steve were talking, he was talking a lot about the lights too. And we were talking about those energy balls and things like that. And I was looking up on a
Yeah.
couple things today, and they're seeing quite a bit. There was a video, I almost caught it for tonight's show, that had one that came in the house, came in one door and went all around the
Oh
house
my
and moved on
gosh.
and went out the other door. And I remember when I was about 10, I was staying with some friends, and lightning struck right outside the
Oh
screen door,
man.
and it was like one of those houses you could go in one screen door and walk around almost like in a horseshoe and go back out, walk through the
Oh,
whole house and go back out the other door. And that's what
right.
it did. Lightning followed
Oh my goodness.
the wind or the breeze. And I'd heard that. You hear old wives' tales like that. And you like the elders used to tell you don't answer the phone during a lightning storm because you can get shocked, hit
Yeah,
by
to run
lightning.
in on you. Yeah.
Right, right. So, we take all that stuff into consideration, but then we have things like you're talking about, that these lights are almost dancing around the woods, almost very much like you would call fairy lights, or some
Yeah.
people call them
Like
elementals. Yes.
yes. Yes.
Yeah, like that. And I'm wondering, that was one of your earlier experiences. I'm wondering if it wasn't kind of like a build-up too, of testing you out, because you're out there, like Laura said in the chat, people see the greatest things going out for a smoke. And that's kind
Yeah.
of when it happens because
It's
you're all by
crazy.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, say
but
I don't
that's how it
smoke
kind of
anymore,
started.
so
Right. You see? But that's kind of how it started with you. You were having all these little things. And at the
yeah,
time, we're going to go ahead and tell the chat right now. You've been an ordained minister for a very long time, haven't you? In
very long
past
time.
20
Yeah.
something odd years, right?
Thereabouts. Probably
Yeah.
about 16, 17 years.
And like I said in the beginning of this, where you are and everything is such well, it's not called the Bible Belt for nothing.
That's
So,
right.
you go through, and it is that kind of feeling out there. Steve has said it too here about the woods in Tennessee. I say the same about the woods in Alabama and all around in there, Scottsboro and Montesano Mountain, where the cabin was written about. You guys are familiar with that. This is that whole section, and it's just the woods there. It just feels like,
Old, like
yeah.
ancient.
Yeah, exactly. This energy, it's just that way, and I think it is very much these lights, and it doesn't have to be one thing. It could be all those things. It could be that energy. It could be spirits. It could be orbs. It could be elementals. All of that. But I also
That's
think
right.
that in some ways you were getting. You have a spiritual connection in not a different way, just a more high vibrational way. And I'm wondering if that wasn't what was drawing it, because other things started to get drawn to you too, probably for the same reason.
Well, I've I've really had a lot of stuff happen to me, just really all through my life. Um, I remember, I had a pretty rough upbringing. Like my grandparents raised me. Um, and just to tell you how old I mean, they're dead and gone now, but they would probably be well over 100, like maybe 110 today. Um, my grandmother had my dad when she was 45. So my dad has um, nieces and nephews that are older than him.
Yeah,
It's
so do
kind
I.
of
Yeah,
it's kind of weird,
I know, I do too. It is weird. Try going to
But
high school with them. Yeah, I
oh
know.
yeah, I was raised with like really old values, so kind of an old soul by default, I guess you could say. But um, yeah, I play music. The guitar has always been I guess an outlet for me to vent frustrations, and I'm pretty good. I got a little band I play in. We're based out of Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and we're
He's
called
real.
Road.
He's really good, guys. He's just being modest here. He is very, very good. And that was your first love, was it not?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, that's
most
where you
definitely.
thought your journey was going to be, but it kind of got interwoven without all this other stuff. And I think you find that a lot, especially the people listening tonight and listeners tonight. If you're creative like that, if you've got that kind of art, in some ways, I find it very rare that people just pick one medium to show it, where you have, your guitar, you put your heart out through your music and you have your art that way. And also through, painting. He does beautiful artwork, which we're going to definitely bring up tonight. I have some pictures to show you guys. That's another way you're putting your light out into the world. But the thing is when we also do that, sometimes that gets pushed on, and we get tested. And whether you hear it, again, like I said in the beginning of this, whether you hear it and you're talking about a journey of a shaman, whether you're talking about the journey of an apostle or someone who has decided to go forth and preach what they believe in, their idea, their scripture, what their heart, their faith is, or anything like that, you always find that we have to go through these dark things too, to almost learn how good the light is and how strong the light is. And I think when you put out a light like that, sometimes it gets tested, doesn't it?
It does, and it attracts all kinds of things. Things that you just never. Here's the thing that really surprised me through it all is, for one, hello, these things are real. They were actual things, not some spiritual figment. They were physical, actual things. Um, and secondly, being a Christian, sometimes you get a false sense of security. I mean, yes, God does have a hedge of protection around me, but yes, I can also do things that I shouldn't do, and kind of lowers that hedge of protection.
Like cracks in your windshield. That's how we say it, huh, Steve?
You got you. You
Yeah,
got you. That's
and
exactly right.
it can happen to anybody at any
Yeah,
time, and
even a minister.
it's not a very big thing that we wouldn't think, in all the things that we've talked about on this show, on how darkness or negativity is attracted to us. Sometimes it happens to abused people because that negative anxiety, that adrenaline, that fear, all of that they're attracted to. And it doesn't seem fair that somebody who is being abused would then get attacked by a negative entity, or someone who was just a normal guy doing the right things for his family. But then, is this where you were working in the factory and something started to push on your cracks on your windshield a little?
Well, years before that, when I first moved out, I was 17 years old, and I quit high school because basically my mom and stepdad, we were staying in this just a little rat hole apartment. I mean, it was clean and everything, but it was like the kitchen and the living room was the same room. You know what I mean? Like a
I do.
kitchenette or dinette, they call it, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it was a big old building that used to be a hospital, actually. And there were several little apartments, which were basically different rooms or kitchenettes in the big house. So long story short, my mom and my stepdad got kicked out of the apartment for, you know, rowdy behavior. And I asked the landlord, I said, well, can I continue to stay here if I pay the rent? And he said, I don't care as long as the rent's paid, but they're not to come back. So I had to move out on my own when I was, really young. I mean,
Right.
I've been through some things, but it's made me who I am. I told myself my kids would never see that kind of life. I I
You
don't want
broke the
them.
circle. You broke the
You
cycle.
you got it. Me and my wife are together for good, and you know we're not going down that road. 'Cause she come from a broken home too. We're just perfect for each other. All right, so how everything kind of got ramped up, and recent times, probably about, let's see, my son just turned 11, so it's been right at almost 11 years ago all this happened, because he was
Mm-hmm.
just a little guy. So I was working at a paper mill, and I hated it because it was rotating swing shifts, and
Oh, it's so hard.
and I got a wife and a little baby at home,
Right.
and I hated being working at night with them, at home alone.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I quit that job and took a massive pay cut, like maybe $12 an hour pay cut,
Wow.
just so I could be home. I was miserable at that place, but little did I know that I had jumped out of the pan and into the
Into the
fire.
fire.
Yes, I jumped right into the fire. So a buddy of mine got me a job at this little plastics company in Sheffield, Alabama,
Mm.
and the guys that it was owned by two guys, and they were both massive jerks. I mean, the one guy that I had to work with all the time was a monster. I
Oh
mean,
man.
he was a very negative, angry person. He would cuss you out, um, belittle you. And the guy was really smart. I give him, I mean, he was a brilliant person. He could work math, very complex math in his head. Um, but he would ridicule you because you couldn't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Real jerk.
Yeah, real jerk.
Yeah.
So I started just, it was kind of chipping away at me. Like every day it was worse and worse. And I just told him, in my mind, I started thinking, I hate this guy. I hate this guy. I hated his guts. I hated the way his face looked. I hated his voice.
It chipped away at you,
Um,
kind of like a little, like almost like a death of a thousand cuts. Little by little by little, it was eating at you, right?
yes, and
Mm-hmm.
and let me just to preface all this, I'm the type of person that if you have a problem with me, it upsets me really bad. Like I take it very personal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just I just don't like for people to have hard feelings or for there to be a rift in my relationships with anybody. And I really do well with people that have differing views, and um, I can get along with hard to get along with people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been a hospice chaplain for 10 years now, so um,
That takes a different kind of personality to be able to
y-
handle that. I know I've
oh
done it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of people out there, and not all of them are friendly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I just try to bring a little joy to their day and to encourage them, and.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyhow, I started having really dark thoughts about this guy, like, um, and I was a minister and would preach at church, and it bothered me that I was having those thoughts and feelings
Mm-hmm.
toward that guy, because I'm just not that kind of person.
It
I
was
just
eating
don't.
at you.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it bothered me real bad. Um, so I started having weird things happen at my house. Used to, this is when I lived in Tuscumbia, which is right beside Muscle Shoals. So our little house, I used to like to go outside at night after my wife and baby have gone to sleep. I like to walk around the house and pray and just talk to the Lord, and I like to just
Mm-hmm.
think and unwind.
Right.
So I started noticing that right outside of my bedroom was a spot, and I could draw an X on the ground exactly where it was. That the closer I got to it, I started feeling a dread and a terror, like
Mm-hmm.
terribly afraid. And I thought, man, this is
Uh,
awful.
I
And
know
it's,
the
it was
feeling, honey. I know the feeling like you're walking into evil.
it was kind of like if you go off a roller coaster, like the first dip.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like, a falling sensation.
Wow.
But it was just terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed that, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And it was almost like something waiting outside to come in, is the way I kind of gathered it, you know. So the first things that started happening was that right there. But then, like at night when I would go to sleep, I would feel something hop up on the bed like a cat. But we didn't have any cats then. And our dogs, we kept them pinned up like in a little baby gate kind of area.
Right.
So they wouldn't pee on the carpet at night, you know. That's my wife's doing. She's brilliant. She thinks of everything, you know. So anyhow, I started feeling something jump up on the bed, and it would creep up. I mean, I could just feel it getting closer and closer.
Oh, jeez. Can you imagine this, chat? I mean, honestly, that's some scary stuff because it's creeping and get closer and closer, Steven, and you can't see it. You don't see anything there. It's invisible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Gee.
Well, I never turned around to face this.
Ooh. Okay.
It would creep up right behind. You know, me and my wife, when we sleep, we kind of just spoon, just like two spoons together. You know, and this thing would just creep right up my back, and I would feel it walking, like walking or crawling right up the back of behind me on the mattress.
Oh, jeez.
And it would get right up on my ear, and I could just feel it there.
Oh.
I didn't feel breath or anything, but I felt it right there. And I always felt like it was trying to take my life, like my spirit or something.
Like it was trying to suck your soul out or something.
It was trying to suck my soul out. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Do you hear that, guys? Oh, my gosh. I mean, oh. And it gets worse.
Yeah. So the next, and this would happen often. At one time it got so severe that it's probably the scariest I've ever been in my life. I would feel something reach up under my back. Like imagine laying on your back and you being completely paralyzed, like you ain't doing anything.
You can't move, nothing but your eyes usually.
Move. Nothing but your eyes. And I couldn't say anything. I mean, I was struggling to get my wife's attention.
Right.
But I would feel an arm reach right under my back and lift me up off the bed like an arch. I wasn't all the way off the bed, but my back, like just imagine
like
a little
picked up with an arm.
Yeah. Like an arch, like you're doing a back bend. You know what I mean? So that happened a couple times, and it would just all of a sudden drop me, and I would kind of fall. I would feel myself fall back down to the bed like I was arched up, you know?
Right.
But the craziest thing happened the second time that happened. I went out of my body, and I was walking down the hall, and it was like I had a cloak on. Like, imagine having just a quilt over your head.
Right.
Kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi or something.
Right, like a big old,
Like an old wizard cloak, you know.
And now this is you having like almost a lucid dream, but it's like it's almost like you're not having a dream. What was it like again?
It really happened. Like
it really happened. Okay.
Like I was somehow or another physically out of my body for a short time. Like we had a long hallway from our bedroom that went to the front door. But before you got to the kitchen, there was a little area where we kept the dogs, right? We had a little gate, so they were just in the front hallway.
Right.
But when I was out of my body, air quotes, and had the cloak on.
Like a cloak, yeah.
Yeah. So I was just for some reason walking down the hallway with this cloak on, and when I got to where the dogs were, my little Pekingese jumped up like she was startled to see me, and she started like growling at me. And And then when that
Like it
happened,
saw you, but almost didn't recognize you as you.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I saw her, and I was like, oh crap, there's the dogs, So it startled me and startled her. And exactly when that happened, I was back in my bed and like
Yeah, like it
fell.
startled you awake and you just fell right in. Well, that's incredible because that's huge for that. I'm so glad you told that part of the story because I always thought that's an amazing thing if you're astral projecting or you're out of your body doing that. It was enough for the dog to see you and see you as something there, but
Yeah.
not enough to recognize you as you. That's what gets me. So I don't know how you looked from the at the vantage point of the dog, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh man, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall to see
Right?
that.
That's a trip. That's a trip. But see, now it's starting, chat. This is where it's starting. First, he's seeing all the lights and having all the other, things. And again, I bring up the abuse and trauma as a child, whether it's mental abuse or verbal or physical, whatever. That kind of thing really does start to crack your windshield. Now, anything that wants to take advantage of that, it doesn't have to hit like when you're 5, when the breakage started to happen, or 6 or 7. It's got all the time in the world. It can wait. And it
Oh
almost
yeah.
seems to me like when you were outside walking, you were walking into that energy or near that energy, it was almost waiting outside for a way to get in. And the first way it finds to get in is this thing that keeps crawling on the bed, messing with you then, almost in where you're starting to get into that dream state. And then it finds a way to get into your dreams and into your mind. And that's when the other stuff starts happening, right?
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah, I was a wreck during this time. Like, my it just emotionally and spiritually worked on me and worked on me.
Sleep deprivation, worry,
Yeah,
nerves, adrenaline, the whole
all
ball
of,
of wax.
and being a new daddy,
Oh my.
um, you know, um, it's was a whole
Yep.
new world. Um, all right, so the next thing that happened that was paranormal, and all of this stuff that I'm telling you right now happened like within maybe a week or two,
Okay.
like maybe a week or a little more than a week's time. All this happened. All right, so the next thing that happened after I had the astral projection scene, and the thing is I wasn't even trying to do that or nothing. Like whatever was messing with me at night was solely responsible for that out of body situation. I mean, I wouldn't ever try to do anything like that just because I don't want to. It didn't.
Right, right.
Yeah, that stuff does not
It's not something
interest
that
me.
interests you at all. Yeah, I was just gonna say
No,
it for you. Yeah, I get you.
I got enough problems inside my body. I don't need to,
Yeah.
I don't need
Yep.
that in my life. So the next thing that happened, and I was really bad about falling asleep on the couch.
Uh huh.
And I'm a snorer sometimes when I lay certain ways. And so if I fall asleep somewhere other than the bed, the wifey, she don't usually wake me.
I wouldn't either. Let you stay
Yes.
there and snore by yourself.
Yeah.
I used to
Yeah.
do it to mine too.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
Go to
funny.
sleep,
It's
honey.
funny. And I always tell her, man, I can't help it. I don't,
I know.
I'm not doing it on purpose. So I fell asleep on the couch one night, and this was back during the time when infomercials would still be on,
Right.
you know, after programming went off. So I'm asleep, and I mean I'm all the way asleep. And sometimes my wife would wake me up, and I thought that's what was going on. When you're asleep and just waking up, you're kind of in a little bit of a fog just
Yeah,
for a
days.
second
Yep.
until you can gather what's going on. So at first I thought, okay, this is my wife coming to wake me up like she usually does. And I heard it sounded like a shopping mall. You know how like when you go in a shopping mall that's like totally crowded, like before COVID. Like during Christmas time when the mall is super packed and there's just random chatter of like 1,000 conversations at the same time, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just incoherent ramblings. You know, you can't make out what they're saying, but you can
Right.
tell they're talking. Well, that's what it sounded like right in my ear. It sounded like hundreds of people talking at the same time, like
Mm-hmm.
they were trying to get a word in edgewise, kind of talking.
And that's the
And
creepy stuff because it's the voices. It's the multi voices all at once talking. It's not the first time I've heard something like that before this. But I'll tell you something, Stephen. You know as well as I do, that's almost an announcement for a highly evil entity.
oh yeah, it
The
was
voices.
definitely talking to me.
It's incredible. It's almost like it's almost like that whole play on Legion, where we are many.
Yeah,
And that's the creepy part of this before. I mean, if you think about you're laying there and you hear all these voices, you're thinking, okay, that's an infomercial or something. And then you realize,
yeah.
no, it isn't. And you're hearing all these voices, but you can't quite tell or pick out any conversation or words. You just know there's multiple people talking. That is so over the edge creepy because I'm telling you guys, that is, it's a telltale of high evil.
Well, and not only that, but the thought of something talking in your ear while you're asleep is just unnerving, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, baby. Go ahead.
you know, it's just very disturbing. Well, when I heard these voices, I just kind of instantly woke up and I had the fright of my life. Like I opened my eyes and this white-faced creature is just hovering right over me. And when I saw it, it only lasted like a split second. As soon as I saw it, it went backwards like it was on a bungee cord,
It just got sucked away.
sucked away, like like unnaturally fast.
Yes. Again, I've seen something similar. So when you said it, it gave me extra chills because I've seen the same type thing. And I had a friend who saw it too. And it's the way you describe it, of it just like, you saw it, it saw you, it's aware you just saw it. And all of a sudden, like,
Like
oh my
whoops.
gosh, it's not supposed to see me. And it just
Yeah,
sucks out of the room like a vacuum cleaner sucked it out.
that's
So
right.
crazy.
Yeah, it was unnaturally fast, like lightning fast.
Yeah.
Like if I had to guess, it would probably be like 500 miles an hour. I
Yeah,
mean, you know,
I mean, it is. It's weird, but it just, I'm trying for people who have experienced this, because I've got people in here too that are, and absolutely everything they're saying is right on the money. Sleep paralysis, sleep deprivation, new baby in the house, all of that can cause, especially women who just had children, postpartum depression. You see all kinds of things,
oh yeah,
downright hallucination. I remember once walking in my child's room. He was about, oh gosh, it was in the first 2 weeks, I had him home, and I thought the whole nursery was on fire.
oh man,
I walked in and the whole nursery it started at the crib and the whole room burst into flames. And I'm fighting through the flames to get to my child to pull him out of the crib. And I'm literally fighting through flames and smoke to get to him. And as soon as I realized that the flames weren't hot, as soon as my mind put together that I wasn't burning, going through the flames, it disappeared and got sucked out, just like you said.
yeah, it's
And I've
wild,
had
man.
multiple experiences like that. It blows my mind when when something clicks like that. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well,
It got
this
sucked
thing,
out.
the way that it looked was, I've never seen anything like it. Like I've never heard any stories about anything that looks like this, but its face was very distorted, like, and the closest thing I can equate it to would be like the Japanese dragons, like you know
Okay,
how
yes.
when they have like the Chinese New Year's, what I meant to say, but
And it's
There would be,
moving through the parade, and
yeah,
many men wearing the costume to carry. Yeah, I know exactly
right.
what you mean.
Well, you know how they have that big, grinning,
Mm-hmm.
evil-looking mouth with the sharp
Mm-hmm.
teeth? Well, this thing had burning, glowing eyes. I mean, like, I, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
like
I've seen
like.
them. I know what you mean.
Have you ever seen Lord of the Rings?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like the big bad in that movie
Yeah.
was like the eye of Sauron or whatever. Well, that's the color. It looked like just a burning ember, like a golden yellow, burning looking, like its eyes was on fire, and it had
There's.
like a reptile looking pupil. It was a black pupil and
Oh my.
a big distorted mouth with sharp teeth. I mean, it had a mouth full of teeth,
Mm.
and it just grinned real big, and it was gone, like just
Oh,
sucked backwards
jeez.
out of the room, right down the hall.
And that
And,
shows some kind of sinister knowing behind all that too, where it
oh yeah,
grins and it looks bad. It's almost like one of my grinners. I mean, it's just something about that connection in when they look at you and know that you know. It's just it's creepy.
oh
I'm
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
it knew it
It's so
knew
bad.
that I saw it. Like the jig was up.
Mm.
And I just wondered, like, does that thing travel around and visit other people at night? Does it?
Oh gosh.
I mean,
Mm.
like when I hear stories of people that do like very evil and heinous things,
Mm-hmm.
like this guy just flips out and goes and
Mm.
shoots up a movie theater, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or people do
Is
some
it
really
that thing?
dark,
Yeah.
yeah. Or is there an evil, sinister something behind that?
Yes, I totally believe it. I totally believe it because it works on people till it breaks them down, just like it was trying to do with you.
Yeah.
Because it really did, Stephen. I mean, during this time, like we said, and again, I say everybody in the chat, and you're welcome. Fast, all the bacon you want. We always bring bacon here for everybody, Stephen. So
Yeah.
make yourself to home, as you say in the South. Make yourself to home.
That's
So,
right.
but that's our favorite thing here. That, and if when we have popcorn, it's bacon caramel popcorn. If you've never had it, have some. It's
Nice.
so good, so good.
Sweet.
So yeah, we spare no expense here on the show. But that's the thing. When I do believe there are entities that do that push on people, but I also believe there's lower. Kind of, let's say, minions, for the lack of a better word, that really work on other aspects of it, like maybe the
Oh
thing that
yeah.
crawled on the bed was not the same as the one that came to you when you were on the couch, but a
R-
minion of that, all working for the same thing to make your,
Oh,
first with you and then
these.
your family, and
Yeah.
yeah.
More things to come. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
had. There was a couple more instances that happened, and I was fully convinced then, and I'm fully convinced now that all these things come from the same bag of tricks. Like,
1 second, Stephen, darling.
mhm.
We have bacon, bacon. Repeat again, bacon. 3 times on bacon. That means we got a special guest here. Let's bring in my lovely co-host buddy. My everybody loves him here in the chat. Steve Stockton, come on in.
Hey,
Hey,
Cisco,
darling, Steve
Steven, how's it
Butler. We
going?
got Steve Stockton. You guys.
Steve?
What's happening?
Go
Hey,
ahead.
this
We
is
are talking. We are having a wonderful visit, Steve. I'm so glad you could pop in because I'm going to catch a chat up here for a second. When I first got these two gentlemen together, the parallels on their story, Steve, we've talked about the lights, as you recall. Stephen lives there in Alabama, and he was seeing the lights in the trees and everything, and it slowly built up. Someone at the factory was really pushing on his cracks and making him feel hatred and having thoughts. Now he's got something crawling up in the bed and pushing him in the couch and visiting him and stuff. So that's where we are. You guys visit, get caught up.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice, my friend. Hope you had a good Christmas.
Yeah, good to hear yours. Sounds like home. Yeah,
Yes,
I had a
sir.
great Christmas. Hope you did too.
Oh, yes, sir. Had a great one. I had a great Christmas.
Well, I'm so glad Steve could jump in here. He just finished another show, but we had to get together on this because, like I said, they did have a lot of parallels. But it's lovely getting Steve Stockton's view on a lot of these things too. It's an amazing thing. So you go ahead, Stephen, and Steve and I'll just sit here and pop in when we feel the need. Go on ahead.
Yeah, I feel special, man. Steve Stockton's kind of like a rock star to me.
He is to all of us
I
too.
appreciate that, man.
You're awesome, man. You're awesome. You do a great thing.
Thank you.
So the next thing that happened to me after the white faced entity that was talking to me while I was sleeping, and this was probably a few nights later. I was laying on the couch asleep again, and this is after I even thought I'm never sleeping on the couch again. You know, it just happened. When you work the rotating swing shifts, you just fall asleep wherever you see it. You know. Um, so what woke me up this time was a feeling. You know, like if you ever wake up nauseous and you got to throw up, you're just like, oh, I gotta go. I mean, you can wake right up out of a dead sleep with a sickness, you know.
It's happened,
Well,
yeah.
it was kind of like that, but it wasn't like a physically sick feeling, but it was a something really bad is happening feeling. Like the roller coaster when you go off the big dip, how you feel like your stomach is gone. Like we used to call it where you lost your stomach, you know, over that bump in the car, you know. But that's the feeling that I got, like a falling sensation, kind of like when that thing would try to take my spirit at night. It's just like it would try to drain me at night or something. But it was a scared feeling of terror that woke me up. And when I opened my eyes and I couldn't move anything, like nothing but my eyes. So I was scared. I was scared. And when I looked up over the couch, I saw this great big towering figure. And I mean, it was built like the Incredible Hulk, like just its shoulders were just way bigger than a person could. Like there is no way that a person could get this size and this exaggerated. Like it was big as a Volkswagen Bug, and it was just leaned over me
Oh,
on the couch, and it just pressed its face right up against my face, and it just pushed me down in the couch like a hydraulic press. And I kept thinking, this is hurting me. Like I'm in pain right now. There's something, you know. I was terrified in my mind. I was thinking that okay, there's a giant, solid, black, Incredible Hulk looking thing pushing me down in the couch, and I could hear it. I could hear the couch like creaking and cracking.
popping. Oh,
Yeah, like the wooden frames. You know, it has
right.
like a little wooden struts in there. You know, that holds the form of the couch. But these was like a double recliner love seat is actually what it was. So I heard wood cracking and popping and springs popping in the couch. And I thought, man, this thing is going to crush me to death. I couldn't breathe. And I was scared. And I just thought, in my mind, I thought, Lord, help me. Um, I was trying to say Jesus, and I could not, I just couldn't even utter a word out of my mouth. Nothing. So this thing, I mean, it grounded me. I couldn't do anything. It's a scary feeling for something to have that kind of power over you at the moment.
Well, sure.
And it was like it liked the fact that I was scared. It's like it got off on that, you know.
Yeah. It was feeding on that fear, and the
Yeah.
fact that you could hear the couch breaking under the pressure. And I remember when you told it, you said it was almost like a steady pressure, like just more and more and more and more and
Yeah.
more, just awful.
And it was hard. Like when it pushed me down, I could feel its arm, like its forearm and its face just bared down. And it was like, it's like it had if it had an eyeball, it was on my eyeball. And it was like, just kind of like, what are you going to do? You can't do nothing about this. It was taunting me and never said a word or anything, but I had just a flood of emotions, at that time. And then all of a sudden, it just let go and was gone. And I sprang up off that couch and ran down the hall. And have you ever ran so fast that your brain and your legs were not together?
It's almost like a cartoon. Yeah, it's almost like
yeah. And I was falling and
yeah.
fumbling. Yeah. Like Scooby-Doo. Just like that.
I also
So-
want to point out the fact that you said, and I hate to keep interrupting you, but there's so many good parts to this story that really show the power of the two, the fight. It's almost like, imagine, chat, if you will, like imagine a hand-to-hand Romans fight. I mean, a real down in the dirty, the mud isn't brown anymore. It's, red with the blood. And your hand-to-hand combat, face-to-face, up close and personal with whoever you're battling. And that's what these things are like. I mean, you're laying there on the couch. Something has totally interfered with your space right out of the gate. That's how you are in just your day, standing in line at a 7-Eleven or a Wawa or a Quickie Mart or whatever, and somebody's up in your space standing in line. They're not even breathing down your neck or trying to break your couch. So just imagine waking up and seeing something like this and feeling it and hearing the actual furniture underneath you being broken. It's an amazing thing. But I do know, even though you couldn't speak, you were thinking prayer, were you not?
Oh, yeah. I was like, help me, Lord. Help me, Lord.
And there it is. At some point in time, it broke. And I believe in that so much that I didn't want to just graze over that important part, that I even put it in the cabin when the little boy was in the cave and that thing was trying to suck his very life force out of him. He was just thinking a very simple prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. It was enough to break it. Just enough to get a breath. And that's how it happened to you, sort of.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, yeah. Yeah, but this thing, it was just solid black, like the blackest black, like, like sackcloth and, velvet. It kind of reminded me of velvet. But it did actually break my couch. Like, I thought to look under it like the next morning, and it did. Like, the wood frame broke, and you would have to really,
Incredible.
you'd really have to try to do that,
That's incredible, isn't it, Steve? That's just...
Oh yeah, that's one of the most incredible stories like that I've heard. I mean, I've had similar experiences, but nothing to that extent.
The physical aspect of it blows me away, because usually they can, make you feel like get inside, like it was when it was getting into your dreams, Stephen. It can manipulate your mind and manifest things, change your vantage point, your reality, and what you're seeing. Like all those scenes in, think Poltergeist, when the guy was looking in the mirror and his face and his skin started to peel off, where he saw maggots in the steak. These kind of things, it can portray that. And I'm just saying all this in detail like this because you don't know who you're talking to, when these things go out. Somebody might need to hear this in detail and say, man, that happened to me. Or, everybody is just, saying, like, we'll put a label on it, like sleep paralysis. And because we gave it a name, nobody wants to dig, oh, you're just having sleep paralysis. Well, that doesn't help the person
Doesn't help a bit.
who's having these things go on. Yeah, go ahead, honey. I'm
well,
sorry.
it was just, it's kind
Crazy.
of uncanny that all these things just so happen to happen like within the same, time frame, like within a couple weeks or so,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's startling to know that these things possess those kind of capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
They can talk to you, float above you while you're asleep. They can shut your motor functions down.
Mm.
Um, I mean, who
Yeah.
knows what all they're capable of? That's
And yeah, and one thing at a time doesn't sound so scary, but when all these things are happening at once and picking on you at a time when you got a new baby in the house, your sleep
oh yeah,
deprivation, you're at your lowest, and it just keeps
worst
pushing,
time.
pushing, 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 and this is how it works and how it
Yeah,
gains ground. It's amazing. Okay, I'm sorry, honey. Go ahead.
yeah. These things are jerks too, man. That like whatever it is, it hated me. Like I
You can feel it.
felt that. I could feel that it hated me, that it wanted to hurt and destroy me. It wanted to take me out. Um, and back in during those times, I was more involved with ministry because I didn't, I just had my first child, but I used to do a juvenile detention center ministry where I would go talk to kids that had been arrested and, were in juvie, like in kid jail pretty much. Um, and I loved doing that. I loved it. I loved it. But, having a young baby, starting a
Right.
family and stuff, I just didn't have time to dedicate to it anymore.
Right. I don't want to
Yeah.
interrupt you, hon, but I got a good question here. Do you think,
Yeah.
this is from Donnie, do you think it was the same thing in different forms or separate entities? And that's a great question because go ahead and tell me what you think.
I I always had the distinct feeling that they were different things. I don't know why. I don't really have any reasoning behind that other than just the way that they presented themselves and um but they all hated me. All these things, it's like they were on the same team. Um
Exactly. That's exactly great way to put that. I think that they were all separate, just from what I'm getting, and mixing with other stories and trying to pick apart, little details that are telltale signs on different aspects to it. That's what I would think that they're all working for the same cause to break you down, to break down your family. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I think so. There's just who were in concert together, seem to be in pairs or in threes, sometimes three. A lot of times, especially with demonic activity, that's a mocking of the Holy Trinity. Couldn't tell you the number of people that I've talked to that have had encounters with three beings or received three scratches or had visits from the same entity and multiples of three. So it's real. I mean, there's something out there. It's like they were talking about in the chat here. There is different types of sleep paralysis. I've had the one where it's just like your body kind of locks up, but then I've had one where there's a definite presence. There's something else there, and you have that discernment. You can feel the evil coming off of it, like he was talking about. It wants to hurt you. It wants to do something to you, and it wants to harm you.
There you go. And did you have any distinctive? There's a couple time in the chat. I believe Laura was asking. Were you able to tell if there was a certain ear you were getting the voices in, or was it all around you?
it was just like somebody right in your face talking in your face.
Okay,
That's how it
because
was.
sometimes people get psychic things in different ears and stuff like that. I
Oh,
know I have different voices for different ways too. So that's a good question as well. Okay, you go right ahead, honey. I know this is a buildup of, all this different stuff that is happening to you, but we have to understand at the time when all this is happening to you, you're wrecked. You're going to work. Steve and I both been through this. You're going to work where you hate it. You're not sleeping. Then you start not feeling well. You're probably more anxious
snappy.
and snappy at people. Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah,
just
and
messes y'all up.
I mean, it was to the point where I couldn't stand myself. I was like, golly, man, get a grip. But this, the guy at work, I mean, I was stuck dealing with him. I couldn't like escape and go do work. I had to be right there with him. And this one time, I was winding some plastic coated wires. What we made was plastic coated wire. And the guy was just standing there and he was just like jawing. I couldn't even hear what he was saying because the machine, but I just saw his mouth barking at me, and he was looking at me with a scowl. And I just thought, man, I would like to take this guy's head and put right in that machine and just,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I would never do nothing like that. But, the thought crossed my mind, and I thought, golly, man, but I really started to develop a hate for this guy. And, I'm just not the hating kind of person. Um, I don't, I don't even like for other people to be upset
Yeah.
with one another. I
It
don't like
wasn't
for
you.
people to fight.
It wasn't you, and you weren't acting like you. You were definitely acting different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And going through a lot. Like my wife's dad had just had open heart surgery and stuff, so we were going through that. And my mother-in-law, her marriage was in a bad way. She was being mistreated by a new stepdad of my wife, and just a whole lot going on at the same time. Plus having to deal with all this crazy mess going on. And I thought, I've got to be losing my mind. This is insane, what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was outside praying one night, and I just happened to look up. I like to look at the stars. I've always been a stargazer.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Beautiful skies in Alabama, I'll tell you.
yeah, so I got a real nice
Beautiful.
one in my backyard tonight. I mean, I live like 1 mile from Point Mallard Park. I'm right
Mm-hmm.
here at the Joe Wheeler Wildlife Refuge.
Yep, I know right where you are, buddy.
I mean, it's just gorgeous here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was outside, and I was taking a leak in the front yard. Is what I was doing, and I was just kind of praying and thinking to myself, and I look up, and it's just a great giant black triangle, and it's cruising very slow. There's no sound. There's no lights on it. There's no writing on it. No seams or lines. It just looked like a flat black, kind of like the Batmobile has that flat,
Yep.
sandy look to it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like. It looked like a stealth bomber, but unimaginably big, like big as several super Walmarts. It was massive.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cruising low. Like this thing was probably, I mean, it almost looked like I could shoot a bottle rocket and hit it. Like it was just, I'm not a good, I'm not good with like distances and time frames or anything, but I would say this thing was probably like maybe 1,000 or 2,000 feet in the air. It was just like right there. And it was huge. And in my mind, I thought, I can go in and get my cell phone, and I probably could have went in and got my cell phone 3 different times to take pictures of this thing, but it does not. It's not a thought in your mind when you see something like this.
Mm-hmm.
You're just in awe of it. I was shocked and in awe, and I thought, if I could get a picture of this thing, it would be the greatest UFO picture of all time, because it was right there, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was traveling up 72 towards like Tupelo area,
Mm-hmm.
up around Cherokee and Marjoram. Tuscumbia is not really too far from the Mississippi line,
I know right where you mean.
headed that way.
And you
So
said it was quiet. It was just so quiet.
silent, dead silent. It didn't make any sound. And I watched it cruise on towards Mississippi for a little while. And when I got to thinking about what it was, like in my mind, I was thinking, that kind of looks like it might be the military, like it was something that we made, like it didn't strike me as like an alien craft.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, yeah, that's got to be some kind of stealth blimp, or
One of ours.
yeah, it's one of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I thought that, I blinked my eyes, and it was instantly a formation of ducks or geese or something, even making sounds. And I know that's not what it was. I know that's not what it was.
That's incredible. And we have in the chat what Blue is mentioning. Yeah, he's right near Redstone Arsenal. That's where I was stationed, and I was a VIP driver, truck driver, transportation out there. That time it was 64 Charlie. And I can tell you, I've been all around that base, and that doesn't mean that I would have seen anything, because there's a lot of underground dumbs and bunkers and all kind of things going on there. I'm not saying it's not one of ours. The thing about it is, I mean, it was so stealthy. I mean, it's very much like these black triangle kind of things you see now, but much bigger. And when we were first talking, Steve had this big old smile on his face like he does now. I can see it under that beard of his. Because why, Steve? You had similar, didn't you?
Had a very, very similar experience in Las Vegas. When I lived out there, I was working at Treasure Island Casino. It was about around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was giving I was a manager, and I was giving one of my employees a ride home to Henderson, which is go down south end of the strip and then turn left. And we were past Mandalay Bay. And at that time, between Mandalay Bay and there's other stuff further on down, but there was a big open area there where there's a power substation. And I just happened to glance over, and there's this thing like you were describing. It was this giant black triangle. Looked to be like the length of a football field, maybe. Just blacker than black, like you were saying, jet black. It was kind of a cross between a triangle and an elongated diamond. It was like pointy at one end, which I assumed to be the front of it, and then in the back, it was more of a stylized triangle than just a straight angle. And this thing was hovering. Go ahead.
Mine was thick, like if you was to lay it flat on the ground, it would be kind of tall too, like a wedge of cheese, like a cartoon wedge of cheese is what it looked like.
Yeah.
Black.
And this thing was hovering there. It was absolutely silent, just like you were saying. There was no lights, no markings, nothing on it. And it was just kind of sitting there over this power station. And I actually pulled over, got out and looked at it. The girl that I was giving a ride to saw it too. And just while I'm standing there marveling at it, all of a sudden mine didn't change into a flock of geese, but it was there, and then it just went straight up. It didn't fly laterally. It just went up to the point that it was just a dot, and then it was gone. I mean, but just like that, and it was gone.
Wow.
Now, again, that was close to Area 51 and Groom Lake and all that out there. That's probably what I figured. It was something of ours, but it seemed to be doing something over that power station, like it was, I don't know, drawing energy or something.
Oh, wow.
If I wouldn't have been looking up, I would have never saw it. And I often think, I always look up. I still do look up all the time, looking for something and expecting to see things. But I wonder how often are things like that just cruising around and
I mean, a lot of people don't look up. I found that out in the woods before when I was a lot younger. Sometimes I'd be out hiking. I'd climb a tree and just watch people walk by underneath me. Never even saw me. And so that taught me when I'm out, I always look up to see if there's something or somebody up there. A lot of big cats will perch in a tree and pounce on you like that. But
it's good, definitely good training to walk in a room and
be
look
aware
up
of your surroundings and look up, look behind the door when you walk.
Even when you go to a public bathroom, don't just look under the doors. Look up.
Look up. Might be Spider-Man up in the corner.
Absolutely. But that was, one of the things that got me on that was too, this whole telepathic thing that I'm, kind of interested in as well as, whether it be entities that at the time you realize you've noticed them, they notice you. You just don't know. There's no way to put that into words, that kind of creepified feeling you get when something, you realize it and they realize it the same time as you do. There's got to be some kind of telepathic thing going on there. When you were thinking about, what is this? What am I looking at? It changed like that.
Yeah, instantly.
Yes, similar to Steve's. I had similar to that. Now, mine wasn't a triangle. Mine was more of a I don't even want to say a ball of light. It was more like a disc of light that was up in the sky. And my friend and I were walking home down this dead end road, and then there was her house and my house, and it was like a road that connected both. It dead ended into hers and dead ended into mine. But there was woods on both sides of the road. We had to walk back. And if it was dark, if we had waited too long, we'd walk each other like halfway and then run back to our houses. Well, we were up to that point and looked up and saw this disc. And what it looked like is, if you could remember way back in the day, now some of you are too young to remember this, but they used to use spotlights. They did a grand opening of a used car lot or something like that, and you could see the beam.
Oh, yeah.
But you could see like a big flashlight circle on the clouds underneath, where the big spotlight would hit the clouds, and they put the shape there. That's what it looked like, but without the beam. And I pointed at it, I looked, and I said, look at that light. I mean, that's not a star. That thing is moving. Look at it. And when I said that, it kind of moved like right above us and down at the same time.
Oh,
like
man.
Now it was looking at us. And we went to run, and because we were doing that thing where we go to the middle and run back to our house, we didn't want to split up, so we didn't know which way to run. We started half running to hers and then turned right back to mine because it was shorter. And the thing was zigzagging with us.
Oh, man.
And then it followed us, and boy, we ran and ran. And I remember hitting the wood line. I remember how many times I've told this to Steve. I'm ready to, we hit the wood line. I can just remember our feet hitting the crunchy sticks and everything to get to, I could see the light of my house. And I don't remember a daggum thing, but being in my house, sitting next to her with our backs against the door like you're a kid. You run in the house, you slam the door, and you hit the floor on your butt. We were both sitting there breathing, and my mother told us we had been gone 4 hours, and we only thought we'd been gone an hour. So I have no explanation whatsoever of that. But the telepathic ICU, it sees us without saying a word thing, creeps me out. So I had to say that just in case anybody out there had similar. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Yeah, that's spooky stuff. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's a shock factor. I mean, people all the time say, "Man, you should have took a picture," and things like that. And I mean, I kicked myself in the butt for not going in, but I didn't want to miss it. Like, I was like, I know as soon as I go in and come back, this thing will be gone. But it seemed like I was looking at it for a very long time, and it was going very slow. Like, it was amazing. I was amazed.
How could something that
it.
heavy just hang like that? We're not used to seeing. It could very well be our stuff, reverse engineered from maybe some captured, extraterrestrial craft. It could be just, who knows? But the thing is you both saw similar, and I'm sure there's somebody out there who is also seeing similar stuff, and it just blows my mind.
It's something. I mean, it was real. What I saw was real.
So did that one kick off? Is that the experience that kicked off the next phase of things coming to visit you in the night? Okay.
Yes. So the next thing that started happening in the house, I started having a recurring dream. But God, I'm the type of person, when I dream, it's just blackness. Like, I don't dream. I've never been one to remember my dreams. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I used to have a recurring dream from time to time that I was falling and trying to keep myself balanced and from flipping and stuff. And then I used to have a recurring dream that my teeth were falling out. Like,
that's awful.
Like they would get, that's a true nightmare.
It is awful. Oh, yeah.
And I'm scared to death of the dentist and everything. And I hate to think about tooth problems, stuff like that just irks me, But I used to have that recurring dream. But other than that, I never have dreams that I remember. Never have. But these dreams were so vivid and real, I just knew that they had to have happened. I knew they had to. So I started having this recurring dream that me and my wife, I was observing this from across the room. I could see it in my mind happening as it's happening to me, like a movie, like watching a movie. And these things would come through the wall At first, you would see their heads that like they would peek, like you would cautiously peek through a window, looking
Mm-hmm.
around. So these things would peek out of the window, out of the wall there, and they would just kind of, once the coast was clear, they would gingerly walk through the wall, no problem, and they would commence to grabbing me by the arms and the legs. Like there was four of them and a leader. Like there was five total. One of them would grab one arm, one would grab another arm, one would grab a leg, one would grab the other leg, and the other one was kind of like the director, like he was like the boss. I could
Right.
tell he was the boss of the other ones. They all looked identical. They were very white, glowy looking, like their skin looked translucent and like it had a shimmer to it,
Okay.
like it
Yeah.
was illuminated, like a very faint glow.
Mm-hmm.
And their eyes looked like kind of like a black circle, small, tiny black circle
Mm-hmm.
that is placed in a smeared, greasy spot. Like its eyes was wet and oily looking, like it looked like something took some motor oil and wiped it where eyes are supposed to be on this thing. And then it looked like it just took two black gumdrops and stuck in that oily spot. And that's what its eyes looked like. It didn't really have a nose to speak of, just like maybe a ridge.
Mm-hmm.
And its mouth was just like a little slit. They never moved their mouths, never talked. And their eyes are just emotionless, kind of like their eyes reminded me of a shark's
I
eye.
was
You know
gonna
how like
say a shark's eyes, yeah, like a
yeah,
doll's eyes, like old
like
in Jaws. He said, yeah,
like lifeless, like there's
yeah,
no soul or
no soul.
emotion in it. Yeah, just a real dead stare.
Mm-hmm.
But their bodies look the same as a human as far as like two arms, two legs, but it was very emaciated. Like it looks like it like when I was in school, they used to show the videos of like the Nazi camps and stuff, and how
Right.
the
POWs would
yeah
look.
the poor Jewish people and POWs would just be skin and bones, and
Right.
working in hospice, I see people that kind of dwindle down to
Mm.
low weights like that. Like 100-pound person is skin and bones.
Right. And you
Um,
said that's one of the things that got you because they looked so fragile. You could almost see ribs through, like they had actual ribs and a navel.
yeah, they better be glad I was asleep because I could have broke them down. They look like weaklings, like
Mm-hmm.
uh, they did have musculature, but it looked like little chicken cutlets under the skin.
Oh wow.
Like it was just barely there,
Because you
just
were
enough
getting a
to.
good look because you said each one had, one was on one each arm and then
Hmm.
one each leg, and then this one was kind of like,
Like the
supervising.
boss.
But
Yeah,
if they've got you like that, you're getting a close up view. And you said they didn't even seem to have genitalia or anything like that, but they had a
no,
navel and you could see ribs and even their muscles and stuff. That's
yeah, they
crazy.
they had everything like what we have, but they were just very weak looking. But they were so strong. Like when they like my daddy's the strongest person I ever known. Like for real. My dad was a coal miner, and he was just a tough, grizzled man.
Hmm.
And when he grabbed your arm, he meant it. Like
He meant it, yeah.
yeah, like if he said hold up or get over here and grabbed you, you was grabbed. Like
Hmm.
he had a good grip on him. But these things grabbed you with no concern of hurting you at all. Like I thought, man, this hurts really bad. It amazed me that they were able to produce this much strength in a grip. You know,
That's
I
amazing. Yeah.
I thought there's no way, and their fingers were long. Like when they grabbed my arm and leg, like their fingers wrapped all the way around.
Round. Ooh.
Like if you grab somebody's arm, you're just going to get like your hand will look like a C. It won't connect all the way. You know, like I can grab my daughter's arm and almost touch my fingers together. But these things, like their fingers wrapped almost over itself. It was so weird. Um, and like wherever they touched me would hurt. Like, you know, like when they were fumbling around to get a grip on me. Like sometimes they would just put their finger on me, like, you know, accidentally. It was almost like an accident, like they touched my back, you know. But the next morning after I had this first dream, like my wife does not use foul language ever, like never. If she does, somebody's in bad trouble because you done made her up and cuss. So she's gonna you're in for
You
it.
made
You
her
know?
up and cuss.
Yeah, if you made her up and
Yep.
cuss, it's game over for you. You know. So I got up and was standing at the mirror in front of our bed, and she said, she gasps all the time. Like sometimes she overreacts and will gasp, and I'll think, God, somebody just got cut or something, and it'll be like, I dropped my phone, or it's
Right.
just something not worthy of that response. But she gasped real big, and she said, "What the bleep happened to you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And I turned around and looked in the mirror, and it looked like I had been beat up. Like it was very disturbing because these were real marks left on me,
Right.
and
Real bruises. Yeah.
and places where I remember them touching me by accident. Like on my back, there was a clear fingerprint, like distinctly a fingerprint. It looked like somebody
Incredible.
had mashed into me as hard as they could to bruise me.
That's incredible. And there you have, when you think you're having a dream and, it's just a dream and you wake up and the realization that it really happened
Right.
hits you, that's the moment. But now, I know a couple because I know the story, so I know a couple things I want to go back on. And Blue has some really good questions in the chat, but I'm going to let you finish first because he might get those answered going on further in the story. But also, you said you had pinpricks in kind of a shape of a triangle on you as well?
Yeah, it was the shape of an upside down triangle.
Okay.
Well, from my view, like
Right.
it looked almost like some kind of a lattice.
Okay. Okay.
Like, but there's nothing that I've ever seen or come into contact with that had that pattern. It was very distinct.
Right.
And it looked like an upside down triangle with like diminished numbers of dots as it got to the peak. Like it would be like 5 red dots, next row 4 red dots, then 3 red dots. Obviously there were more than like 3, 4, and 5 dots, but
Right.
it was really weird. It looked like somebody just stuck something and mashed it up against my skin to leave an impression.
Right. And on top of that, I know that Steve had some words last time on what he thought they were. But I want to reiterate on the fact that here you think you're having a dream. It's very dreamlike. You even got a different vantage point, almost like when we hear a lot of the NDEs where people leave their body and they're visualizing what the doctors are doing as they're trying to bring them back, because they flatlined or whatever. It's kind of sort of that feeling when he's looking. His vantage point is off in the corner and he's watching this happen, but you also have the vantage point of being carried, which I thought was amazing. And as you're being carried, tell the chat what you saw, because they didn't carry you through the window. What did they do with you, Stephen?
They carried me out the same way they came in. I went right through the wall like that. at the head of our bed, there's the wall, and then there's a window over to the side. And I remember looking up, and they had me grab the same way it was the same way every time. It was almost like a repeat.
Okay.
Everything was exactly the same. And it always would end with me going out the window, or not out the window, but through the wall. I would see them pick me up and take me right through the wall. But one time I remember, and this is the only time only happened one time that I remembered going through the wall. And as it was happening, I was like, well, this is happening. I mean, like, they are taking me right through the wall. I never felt anything. And I mean, I didn't see in between the wall or anything. It just went from me being nice and cozy warm in my bed, sleeping, to being grabbed and lifted up with ease. Like, I mean, I'm a pretty healthy boy. I'm 180, on a good day, 190, 200, through the holidays here.
Yeah.
So these little skinny things, they picked me up with the greatest of ease, like nothing. It would be like lifting a balloon to you, like if you picked up a balloon, no problem. And they picked me up, and it's like the wall was not even no kind of obstacle to them. And they took me right through. And I went from being nice, warm, and cozy in my bed to going through the wall to outside where it's freezing cold. I mean, if you're in your underwear and go out
Yeah, I can imagine.
into 40-degree weather, it's going to be
It's cold.
And I was freezing.
Wow. And you just come out and you look up and you see the beautiful Alabama sky and the stars above you. And
I'm looking up. Yeah. I'm looking up at the beautiful sky, and the moon's bright and beaming. And that's it. It goes off. I remember through that, I don't know if it's something that I have remembered since then. But I remember a room that had no corners. Like, it looked like you was in an upside down bowl, like an igloo kind of. And it was white, but dark shadows around the bottom of the floor, like where the floor and you couldn't ever see the edge of a room or a door or anything. It was just like a white dome.
Wow. Now, do you remember, Blue was asking if you remembered any odors or any smells, or is there any like chemical smell or anything like that? Nothing?
Never anything like that.
And did you have any missing time? I know you were sleeping, so that's a hard, thing to think about, but, you were probably tired, extra tired, like you hadn't got any rest. Did you feel like that?
I was wrecked. Like,
yeah.
I don't really remember if I had any missing time or anything like that.
Now, Steve Stockton, it's hard tonight because I got two Steves, guys. I'm going Steve and Steve.
Yeah.
But you were saying that you thought because of the naval, that you thought they could have been hybrids, right? And I know Donnie was calling them something else. Donnie was calling them something else.
They're accusing me of falling asleep in the chat. I was doing something on my phone. I had it down like this. I was not falling asleep.
Biodrones.
Riveted by this. But yeah, biodrones. I think that's where it's like a that grown human, for lack of a better thing to call it.
And that would be have that explanation too of Steve feeling a little bit more like they were almost drones, like worker bees kind of thing.
A belly button but no genitals. That would
right.
would make sense.
I mean, it makes an awful lot of sense. I mean, I think it's funny about the ribs and stuff like that, but, bone structure, you start getting questions about that. But again, I'm of the mind that there's a lot of different aliens. I think for years, everybody's got this little green man with the big eyes kind of thing going on. But I think there's so many different ones, from reptilians to, these, Palladians, to the different things that, all around. I don't think we should limit ourselves when we come to think of all the different things could be in the world. So why not these things? And the fact that they had so much strength. Now, telepathic, did you get the feeling that they were communicating back and forth telepathically, you think? Because they were obviously getting instructions or something along those lines.
The way, the impression that I got from them was that they could care less.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't even interested in me. It was like they were just doing a job. Like,
Mm-hmm.
You know how I've worked in factories before, and
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of get in a rhythm where you're just
Right.
like you just veg out and do your work, and it's kind of like your mind checks out, but you're doing your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the way they were about it and everything.
Yeah,
But
they
now
were just
this
kind of vegged
continued
out.
for a while, and then people would say, well, you got bruises on, you got all this stuff, why didn't you do something about that? Well, who are you going to call? I mean, like it
Yeah.
says, I mean, hey, I've got bruises all over me and aliens. I know some people try to take it to the next step and go to doctors, and they might find chips or anything like that, but now yours just kind of kept on going for a while, didn't it, Steve?
Like with
With them.
the alien abduction like dreams and
Mm-hmm.
scenarios, that didn't really happen for a very long time. Like, I would say I may have had that dream or that experience like 3 or 4 times. But
That's incredible. And it's obviously more than a dream if you've got marks and stuff on you. Unless this thing is trying to put that into your head just to mess with you, break you down more.
Yeah,
That's
who
also
knows?
a possibility. It's also a
Yeah.
possibility. So,
Yeah.
we got to put that in there too. But I'm sorry, sweetheart. You continue on.
Yeah, and my thing is all bets are off when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, who knows anything really?
Right, exactly.
We only know what we hear from encounters and what we have deduced from all the stories that we've heard that span across the whole, plethora of abduction scenarios with people, like Travis Walton and all those guys.
Right, right. So true.
So it may have really happened, it may have not, but I do know that it left physical marks on me, and it really messed me up in my mind.
Something was going on.
It caused a lot of problems with me emotionally. Like, I was very distraught, and with all these different things happening, I come to the conclusion that yes, there's things that go bump in the night. They are physical, and they are not. They are and they ain't, if that makes any sense.
They are and they ain't. Yep.
They are and they ain't. They can be whatever they want to be. They can be physical. They can blip in and out. They can pop up right in your face. And there really ain't nothing you can do to prevent it, other than just trying to keep yourself in a good place.
Right.
And to
I
be
think
at
that's
peace
one of
with
the
people.
things that really tear apart the families too, especially the fathers. In your
man.
typical nuclear family, when you're, I don't know, they even say that anymore. Nuclear family, your 2.5 kids, and the mom and dad, whatever that's going on in your household. That's the thing that does it. Everything is starting to break down. You've got people that are, what's going on with you. You don't want to tell the wife. You don't want to tell the husband. There's arguing. It causes all kind of stuff in the house. And we know from experience that these things, whatever they are, negative, they're going to feed on that emotion and feed on that fear and everything else. And meanwhile, you're breaking down and trying to figure out how to fight it. How do you fight something you can't see?
Oh yeah, and I tried talking to my pastor. I was like, "Listen, brother, this is what's going on with me," and he was like, "Huh." That's what he said. He just went, "Huh." I don't.
So much
he
for
said,
that. Yeah.
"Yeah." He said, "I don't really know what to think about that," and
Yeah.
you know,
So hard.
I mean, gosh, who could blame the guy? I mean,
Right.
it's not every day you associate pastor says, "Hey, I think I may have got abducted by aliens.
Right.
What
And
do
there
I
you
do?"
go. You can't turn to what you normally turn to, for
Uh-uh.
your strength and everything else. So I think in every single one of these things, it really turns to the person having the experience. And isn't that what it's all
Yes.
about? We started this about our journey, and like every time we open that gate, we're walking through and we're kind of taking a guided tour through your life and your experiences. But then we got to stop along the way and say this. Now, I know in the chat, there's people that are going to disagree with this, but I'll say it again. If you're going to work on a Mercedes, you've got to have the right tools. It has zero to do with religion. It has zero to do with any of that mess, and we need to get out of that. Where we're saying, "Well, I don't believe in religion, so therefore there can't be anything evil that good can beat." Well,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I
yeah, it
I can
can.
only speak for myself,
Right.
I mean,
But
I
it
can't.
can it can
I
though,
mean,
Stephen, and even if other people put other names to it, if you want to say the jinn, I'm going to fight it with Allah, or I'm going to fight, a shaman is going to go into in purgatory to fight for this one soul that's trying to fight and cannot get out of its own darkness. A shaman will go in and try to help that soul. And yes, a shaman will go in and go through all that to save one soul. You bet they will. So, it doesn't matter what you call it. What matters is what you're fighting and what beats it. Because in my case and in many cases, I didn't tell my 6-year-old who was battling entities like Stephen here, black masses that reminded him of black velvet, a massy smoke that would come down the hallway and actually act like it was going up the ladder of his bunk bed to leap on top of him, to suck the air out of him. And this 6-year-old's faith said, "Jesus is Lord," and it disappeared. So what is that?
yeah,
What is that? That to
I've
me,
got
that's
a
not
Bible
religion.
verse
That's
here I'd like to
faith.
share.
Please do.
Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That covers a lot of ground right there.
It does indeed.
it
And
sure
Powers,
does.
what if that was just
principalities.
some really smart people who had the secret to these things, and they weren't teaching
That's
a
the
religion but a
spiritual wickedness in
spiritual
high
wickedness
places
in
too.
high
Yeah.
places. And that's the thing. And again, I'm not preaching. I'm just trying to say that, if you're somebody who is Buddhist and you're doing the things that you're doing, and that's working for you, and that vibration and that connection into that energy is working, but that's fantastic. I'm all about all of that stuff, all of that good. But if you've got something that only believes and only curls back and recoils from an energy of love and positive that you're putting out there, then use that. Because Steve said it once, and I've never heard it any better. If you don't believe in what you're putting out there, you might as well throw a slipper at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Because
about
whether
right.
it's a nursery rhyme or a hymn or a song
And
on
that
the
goes back
radio.
to folklore, like with the
There you
werewolves and
go.
vampires and things. A silver bullet will work, a cross will work, but you got to believe in it. It's not just the cross; it's what it represents, what's behind it, and what it means to you, and what you put into it.
Stephen
Yeah.
King even put it multiple times in his books. I believe in was it Needful Things or possibly maybe both. It was the faith that the person put into the belief. One child repelled a monster that was coming at him with an atomizer because he believed there was magic
Yeah.
in that, and that's what he believed in. So I mean, again, I never want anybody, the reason I take a pause here, I never want anybody to think that they can't reach to something. That energy and that good, your divine spark, whatever you want to call it, your God connection, your energy connection, your connection to higher self, that is a love connection. And anything that walks in that love and that power, awesome. But again, if you've got something that is only going to recoil from one thing, then that's the way that's what you've got to do. I know shamans, Native American shamans, who have no problem calling on Archangel Michael for help.
Yeah.
So there
And
you go.
it's got to be something bigger than you, because
Oh yeah.
these things, you can't pound them with your fist. If so, I would have done my best, but you ain't going to beat up something that's as big as the Incredible Hulk and
There you go.
can push you into a couch and break your couch. It literally broke that couch. I still
It
have it.
literally did. Yeah.
It
And
broke
it
it. Yeah,
and it tried to break you, sweetie. And you
it
got to
did.
this one point, and I said all that to get to this one thing. Here's a man that's going through all this different stuff. He's getting his couch broke, folks. He's getting
Yeah,
alien handprints on his body. His wife is asking him, "What's going on with you?"
right.
New baby in the house. He's trying to be a good dad. He's turning to his pastor who didn't have answers for him. And so where did you wind up in this, hun? What helped you the most, and how did you pull yourself up out of this, or did you?
Well, when it come to an end, I was coming home from work and I had just been. I'm exhausted. I'm drained, and I dreaded coming home because I was like, I was kind of afraid
Mm-hmm.
of being in the house sometimes, and I was scared that if this thing could hurt me and physically do things to me and leave
Mm-hmm.
marks on my body, I mean, what can it do to my child? I
Mm-hmm.
got a baby, and I'm sure enough going to do something to try to keep it away from my baby. It could do whatever it wanted to me, but leave my children alone. So it really upset me. And it just so happened that I was pulling into the house and my wife was pulling in behind me because it just so happened that we got off work at the same time. And my mama would stay at the house and keep our little boy while we was at work. So she was there with my son. And as soon as I pulled into the carport, I mean, I had tears coming out of my eyes because I saw my wife in the rearview mirror behind me, and I thought, man, I don't want this thing to hurt my wife and my baby. I was worried more so for them, and I just kind of prayed, Lord, please help us. Um, and as soon as I pulled into the carport, it felt like I got struck by lightning or something. Like I just felt amazing. I felt a peace, and I felt a literal power. I could feel the power of God, is what I call it. For me, that was the power of God.
Like you were rejuvenated in some way too.
Yes, yes. Like, in the Pentecostal realm, they call it, when you get filled with the Holy Ghost or you feel the anointing of God. It's very real. I can speak only for myself that is very real. And I remember getting out of the car and I marched in the house. And I mean, I started just laying it down. I just rebuked everything. I said, anything that's not of God in this house, seen or unseen, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, and to get out and to never come back. And I never had any more problems like that. Like it instantly stopped, and the whole atmosphere of the house was different. And I think, well, why didn't I do that from the beginning? But when I felt that feeling, that anointing or whatever you want to call it, when I pulled in, like it did not come from me. It's not in me to just be forceful I mean, it was like I just walked in and threw it out. Like, get out of here and don't come back.
Now, the thing that I'm going to say about this is too, this is no different from somebody, myself or Steve going in taking sage, and like I said, I've had problems in my house, or other people, and I always go in and I'll take Archangel Michael with me and the whole thing. I've got holy water, I've got sage, I'll take it all, because
Man,
I
yeah.
don't know what it is, and I just want it all gone. And you just take like a blanket thing and just put it out there. But it only works if the people who live in that house are believing too. So I always ask that person, well, where's your what is your foundation? What are we standing on? Are we because I want to put that in there too, because it's the owner of the house or the abode, whatever the problem is, the owner of the object, that is going to have the most power with their intent. So we've seen it through thousands of stories where people go in, I've had enough. I'm just going to, whether it's my 6-year-old son sitting up and saying, you're not going to do this. You got to be gone. 8-year-old's faith, or like I said, you going in and getting that boost of strength to go in and put down your intent as the owner of the home and the household, the hierarchy of the household, however you want to put it, in agreement, and banishing it. And we've seen it 1,000 times. I mean, I've seen multiple stories where people were having it just kept escalating to the point where they broke and just got so angry, get out and leave.
Yeah.
And they do. And it's an amazing thing. It can't be explained. And here it is. You did this. So you went from seeing lights to using your light and your faith and your foundation to cleanse that out. Now, what's been happening with you since? Because I know that you told Steve and I that now as a hospice chaplain, you're starting to see some things through that as well, are you not?
Oh yeah, I've gathered quite a few stories, and I mean it's really cool to hear some of these encounters. I saw in the chat somebody had said something that they wish people would believe in themselves a little more, and I can only speak for myself and what worked for me.
Right.
I've got a person at my job right now, a coworker. She came up to me and she said, "I want to ask you a serious question." And she doesn't know. I don't tell anybody that I work with any of this stuff like this,
Right.
So she didn't know about the black entity that, come over down on top of me. Well, she told me pretty much the exact same story and said that they've seen this thing and that it wears a hat, man, like a
hat man.
Hat man.
like an Indiana Jones hat, but it's a black figure and it's massive. She said it's super big. And she's telling me all these things that's happening. Just, pretty much some of the same kind of things, like she feels something climbing up on the bed with her and comes up behind her just exactly like, it's almost like either the Lord or the cosmos, they brought us together. We don't just work together by chance, you know what I mean?
Exactly, and that's exactly how all this happened too. The first time we got together, and Steve was finding out that so many different things that paralleled in their journeys that they had completely separate. Yes, they, Steve did live in Tennessee, and Steve has lived all his life in Alabama, but I don't think it's just the Southern connection. I think it's a connection of your light and obvious abilities, and you've chosen so many different ways to put your light out into the world. And tonight, even coming on here tonight and telling a lot of really personal things that you wouldn't even be able to tell like a lot of your family or people you work with or in the community. But we do this to put these experiences out there because what if, one little thing starts. It starts with this, and the next thing you start to see. We've had people come on here and talk about reincarnation, Carla and Dave, and they've said that people are put, excuse me, along our journeys to test us and push at our karma. Maybe we've got to work on anger. We got to work on being hating somebody we work with that pushes all our buttons, or whatever it may be, a family member we can't get along with. So again, we tell these stories just to rethink, because once we start hearing them so often where multiple people are having similar things happen to them, if it happens to you, you won't feel so alone. And maybe you won't have to go so far down the path before you go to see that light, because when, to grab whatever's going to work for you, because you're going to your counselor at school, or you're going to your family and nobody's listening, your friends or the people you work with think you're crazy. This is where you come We've all seen it. We've all experienced this. When we got together, Stephen was telling a little bit of his story on a show called Real Ghost Stories Online with Tony and Jenny, and I used to call in there and help with that.
Yeah.
And then we kind of connected in, and we snapped together with a couple of experiences, and then boom, here comes Steve Stockton with more experiences, and telling Stephen about you guys both had a similar experience. Steve, I believe it was with your brother who was a minister, and he got that kind of that Holy Spirit, you'd want to say, come over him, and you got to see some of that. And Stephen had a similar experience too. Well, are we coming together as the universe, or our people and his people and Stephen's people all, in spirit getting together to draw us together? Or are we being drawn together to tell these stories, affirm each other's experiences that we had separate yet similar to you guys and anybody that's going to listen to this in the beginning? Because what if one thing we say helps you get through your horror or your hard time? So that's why we do it.
Yeah, why in the world would I tell anybody else? I mean, something so outlandish. I know it's
right.
It sounds absolutely outlandish, and
right. But and you do that, even putting yourself, in an uncomfortable position to telling something so personal, because it might help one person. Froze here,
that's exactly right.
Yeah, and Froze here was saying in the chat too that he had an experience with his wife, and he saw some lights, and he's like, explain that, because people don't believe, and you really don't know how horrific these things are until you go through one or two of them. And again, like I said before, we call it sleep paralysis, or we call it this, or we call it that. But I think we've got desensitized using a lot of labels, because it's like once we put a label on it, it's like it's not scary anymore. But if you're alone in your room, it's scary.
And there are no experts on any of this stuff. Nobody. What do we know?
Yeah. And each one of us has found different ways to put our light into the world. I make jewelry, I do crafts, I do all kinds of stuff. Yeah. We all do different artsy things, and I think a lot of people in the chat, like I said in the beginning, find themselves in the same position. You really have to be, these kind of minds have to be stimulated all the time. We love mysteries, and we love stories like this, and we love to try to pick it apart and figure out what's going on and what makes it tick. And we also do that with our artistry and our creativity, whether we're artists, authors, make jewelry, do clay pots, do pottery, whatever it may be. Steve reaches out and tells stories. He found his thing, and is a wonderful author and has reached so many people. I've heard people say that listening to your stories helps them sleep or get past anxiety. What gifts to put out into the world?
A lot of people that have chronic pain, PTSD, fibromyalgia, stuff like that listen to me. They say my voice helps them. So
how cool is that?
Yeah. And you got it. You got the voice, that's for sure.
And like I said, each one of us has found our way to put our light out into the world. And I wanted to share before we let Stephen go tonight, definitely the whole story of light to light. That's the main thing we wanted to put out here, that no matter how dark it gets, there is a light out there. And that light might be somebody in this chat. That light might be somebody on, Steve's show, or one of Steve's stories, or you found some light and some answers and some love in Stephen's story tonight, at least to know that you're not alone with a lot of this stuff. And we might not, be happy with different labels on different things, but again, don't miss the point of the light and the darkness, whatever you call that, good and that evil. It seems to be the only thing that gets people out of the real dark is the real light, and that's love, man. And we've got that in the chat tonight. But we also find all the different ways to put the light out there. And Stephen has got a wonderful way. It's not just his guitar playing, and Steve is also a wonderful musician and plays around. See, so many different things. It's like one outlet's just not good enough. We each have multiple ones. But Stephen here is a wonderful artist, and I wanted to share some of the art that he has here tonight. Now, tell us where to find this. This is on Ethereal Artistry?
It's my Facebook page is called Exalted Artistry.
Exalted. I was close. I'm so
Exalted
sorry. I
Artistry.
just
Yes.
love them. I just
Oh,
love them.
thank you.
Look
It's
at these. They're
beautiful.
absolutely beautiful. But, again, putting light out into the world, there's lots of different ways. My favorite by far is this little bird here. I absolutely love him. And these beautiful southern fields and everything else, finding the beauty that's around you and putting it on canvas like this for others to share is just amazing. I just love it. It's beautiful
Oh,
work.
we
And
live in a magnificent place. I
don't we
mean, the
though?
world is amazing. It's amazing.
And for somebody who has actually, in my opinion, stared evil in the face, to be able to look out into the world and put it, like I said, on canvas, and capture the beauty that's around us. I think that's the big message for this tonight, is even in the darkness, be able to look out and capture the beauty that's around us, whether it's in a friend's hug or, a kind hello or how you're doing, or whether it's, feeding and taking care of nature, or, trying to raise up kids right and teach them to be kind to nature and kind to each other.
Yes.
Whatever way you can find to put your light out into the world, please do it, and light each other's path along this wonderful journey that we're on, and enjoy the journey, right, Stephen? Both Stevens.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes. Have fun in life. Life is meant to be enjoyed, man.
Yeah, and I also think it's meant that we're not supposed to walk the journey alone. The
That's
journey
right.
is ours, and it's us moving our feet. But I can remember many a time when friends came along that journey and pulled me along or encouraged me, and both of you guys have been, lights throughout my life. And whether it's, what did you call it, the Book of Many Faces, even if you're on Facebook.
The Book of Faces, yeah.
Book of Faces. And you're seeing little things like that, and people make you smile with their memes or their pictures or their pets or whatever beauty is out there in the world. A lot of times we got to look through so much ugly to see the beauty, but again, the light just wipes out the darkness. I've seen it 1,000 times. My chat is full of light and love, and I love both of you guys. And Stephen, it's been wonderful having you on tonight. Thank you so much.
It's always a treat to talk to you guys, and I love y'all. I'm big fans of both of you guys, and you do the world's a better place having you guys in it.
Oh,
No
that's
doubt.
so sweet. And I feel the same way about you. Steve, what would you like to say?
Yeah, just great. I'm sorry I was late getting here, but
That's okay.
Stephen's always a pleasure. Love talking to you. Hope Cisco has you back on again soon. I can come and join in again. Cisco, thanks for having us here. Thanks for providing this platform where we can all get together and share our experiences and, if nothing else, commiserate with one another.
Right, and there it is. I mean, again, we're going to keep reaching out to you guys here every Sunday and Monday night. Tomorrow we have Donnie on, and he is going to come on. We're going to talk about the book and many other things. This was one of my little Christmas presents, to not only to you guys and to myself, because I love talking to you so much, but Donnie was asking for aliens, and I said, well, how about it? I've got a guy who aliens carried him right through a wall. How about that? How'd that be, Donnie? Merry Christmas. So you were
I'm
a little
glad
bit
I
of a
could,
Christmas present.
Yeah, I'm glad I could oblige.
Well, I'm sorry you went through all that, but I'm confident that we've got it beat off now, and I think it's going to be a bright future for you and your lovely family. I think it's wonderful to see that kind of love and understanding coming out of somebody who's been through so much. I know you went through a lot
man,
before that too, but
I
isn't
feel
that
like
the way of it? It
I
seems
feel
to
like
be.
the most blessed and fortunate person that's ever been. I'm happy right where I'm at. I play in a little rock and roll band named
Yeah.
Roadside Mattress. We got a Facebook
That's great.
page. Yeah, yeah.
There
You know
you
how
go.
people started the website for creepy vans?
Oh yeah.
Well, we started a page for mattresses on the side of the road that you see. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
Those
If
ones
you
that the guy with the one arm thought he could drive just holding it with one arm, and it took off. That's probably what you're seeing on the side of the road.
yeah, and it took off. People really like it. We play in southern Tennessee and in the Shoals area and Huntsville area. check out our Facebook and post a picture of your roadside mattress. And,
There you go. That's fun.
yeah,
Love it.
That's awesome. Well,
for
guys,
sure.
thank you so much. And Steve Stockton, where we can find you, 13 Past Midnight, Missing Person Mysteries, reading wonderful stories, doing fantastic. Are you still doing the midnight, or is the Christmas
Yeah,
Ghost?
we've been doing it earlier. Been doing it at 11 o'clock Eastern for the
All
last
right.
few days, but it's still there. This is I think number 325 tonight in a row.
Wow.
And then, of
Wow.
course, Missing Person Mysteries just passed 135,000 subs over there today, growing leaps
Fantastic.
and bounds. And one of our most popular series over there is Listener Stories, where
Hmm.
people send in their stories like this, things that they've encountered, things that have happened to them. And you wouldn't believe the number of people that say,
Hmm.
that happened to me. And thank you for putting that out there, so it makes
Hmm.
it easier for me to tell my story, and
There it
people
is.
don't think I'm crazy. So it's
That's
just all a
exactly
big
what this is
loving
about.
community and support for one another.
Exactly what this is about, and so many people in this chat are over in that, and everybody's linked together. And it never ceases to amaze me. I always think about this world being so big, but when you reach out and you start talking to your fellow man, you find out that we're more alike than we are different. We find out that we all get scared, and we all want somebody to understand. And to come out here, I always applaud anybody that can come and tell these personal stories. And these are times of our lives when we were the most down, when we were the most frightened. To be a father of a family and not know how to fight something that could attack and hurt your children is a horrible place to be. And I'm so glad you found the light and know how to wield it, because that's just the thing. Once you've got that and you've got that foundation, I'm telling you, nothing can beat you, man. Nothing can
That's
beat you.
right.
Like Steve said, we're fighting, the unseen and principalities. And a lot of this, I am highly, really leaning there, is spiritual warfare. And we each have our own battles, and when you find out that there's an army with you like we have in here, nothing can get us down. And I don't want anybody here to feel down, or that you can't tell a story or come on here and tell what happened. We'll try to figure it out, and if we can't, we'll at least give you a hug and say we've been there too, man. We'll be in the hole with you, in this foxhole. We stick together. I love you
Yeah.
all. And thank you
Look,
so much. Much love to your family. And I hope your Christmas was wonderful and your
oh,
stockings
it
are
was
full.
wonderful. I had a one. I'm glad it's over. I took the
Yeah,
day off tomorrow for like holiday
me
decompression.
too. Me too.
So,
Me
yeah.
too, honey. Just enjoy
Oh
everything. And
man,
we got through it, and we're going to be okay. And here comes the new year. What this year has in store for us, I don't know, but we'll get through it together. I love y'all. Keep your feet under the covers. Keep your closet doors shut, because as you heard tonight, there are things that go bump in the night. I love you guys
love you
so
guys.
much.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thanks, Steve, for coming in.
It's my pleasure. Anytime.
Good night, babies.